There's so much I love about Destiny 2, but honestly, nothing tops the feeling of seeing your name on top of the leaderboard for the most damage, looking at your friends and saying, "Ha! Get good, scrub." Well, the build we're looking at today will do just that. We can get our supers back in seconds, letting us pump out more and more damage. Let's jump right on into it. Okay, on a serious note, shout out to the support players that let us DPS fiends put out the numbers that we do. You guys are the goats. But this video is all about how to pump out those insanely high damage numbers. So to start off, we need to talk about where your damage is coming from, and that is your super. The Tcrash super is one of the highest DPS supers in the game, so we want to amp it up to the max and then add in ways to gain it back at a rapid rate. For damage, the first thing we want is the exotic chest piece, Cuirass of the Falling Star. This will give our Tcrash an extra 55% damage, and this is huge since it requires literally no effort. All you need to do is pop your super. Now the other way we add in more damage is from our stats. Nowadays, when we go over 100 in a stat, we gain bonus damage for that ability. For our super, if we can hit 200, we can output another 45% damage, putting our super damage at an increase of 124% with these two alone. Now I realize that most people can't realistically hit 200 in their super stat, so we will talk about how we can do that easily in a minute. So our super deals a ton of damage. Now we need to focus on getting it back as fast as possible. In my eyes, you have two main options for this. First, you have the tried and true classic, Outbreak Perfected. Now it's simple and straightforward. Keep shooting that crit with Outbreak and you get your super back in about 28 seconds. And with this option, you can also opt to bring two of your armor pieces as the tech set armor set. This two-piece bonus will give your kinetic weapons another 15% damage towards constructs. And just so you know, the final boss of the new Desert Perpetual raid is a construct, giving you that extra 15% damage. And the second option is a bit niche, but highly lucrative. That is Hierarchy of Needs. With this bow, we can score hits on enemies to build up our guidance ring. Then we can fully draw an arrow and hip fire to create that ring. Now every arrow that passes through will create 3 extra projectiles that will also damage the boss. All of these projectiles will give back a massive chunk of your super. And one important note, you do need the catalyst for this option to be the best. See, with the catalyst, after deploying the ring, you gain 2 times draw speed and increased reload speed for 5 seconds, which when fired at full speed will stay active the entire time. Now all you have to do is hip fire or spam your bow and gain back your super roughly every 16 seconds. And I love this build on Arc for one main reason: Bolt Charge. See, with Storm's Keep, we can pop a barricade and consistently give us and our team stacks of Bolt Charge, and letting us unleash it with our weapons. And this is really nice in raid environments since it will help all 6 of you deal extra passive damage. But of course, I have to mention, there is an alternate version of this build on Prismatic that can deal slightly more damage with Facet of Courage. So if you have another Arc Titan providing Bolt Charge, then you could swap to that build. I mean, this build puts out so much damage that it's what I use to get a trio clear of the final boss of the Desert Perpetual raid, even though we did get robbed. So let's dive into the build and break down how it works. But Guardians, before we do, I have some exciting news. I've once again partnered with Apex Gaming PCs, and this time, we're running a giveaway. The team over at Apex Gaming PCs builds some of the best PCs. No matter if you're looking for top-of-the-line custom-built PCs, or just getting your feet wet with an entry-level PC, they've got you covered. Right now, they're running a contest to give away a $5,000 PC. All you have to do is click the link in the description or the pinned comment. The giveaway ends on August 31st, so make sure to sign up before then. Alright, let's jump right back into the video. And first up for the super, as we mentioned, I'm opting for Tcrash. And for the class ability, I went with Rally Barricade, since we can place it down to give us and our team those stacks of Bolt Charge. For the melee, I opted for Thunderclap since it deals really good damage and pairs perfectly with our Hot Swap build, which I will mention in a minute. As for the grenade, I'm bringing the Pulse Grenade. It's really consistent, deals good damage, and can stack with other Pulse Grenades. And when it comes to those aspects, for the first aspect, I'm taking Knockout. Now when we get a melee kill, it'll start our health regen. We gain a burst of health, and we become amplified. And this is huge for our overall survivability in the ad clearing phases. It also makes it so that breaking an enemy shield or dealing damage to a low health enemy will give us the knockout buff for 6 seconds. With this buff active, our base melee will count as a powered melee, and it increases our melee damage by 160%. And this is huge for Thunderclap, letting you one-shot nearly any enemy. For the second aspect, we're of course taking Storm's Keep. Now when we use our barricade, we're instantly granted 4 stacks of Bolt Charge, and every 0.6 seconds behind our barricade, we gain another stack of bolt charge. And these benefits also extend to our teammates. That way we can pump out more damage for both us and our team in those DPS phases. But this also adds in a way for us to deal damage to enemies at a distance, since bolt charge doesn't have any fall off range. Now when it comes to fragments, for the first fragment, I'm taking Spark of Magnitude, and this makes it so that our grenades will last longer. And this is really strong, giving our pulse grenades an extra 2 pulses of damage. The second fragment I'm taking is Spark of Shock, and this will make it so that your arc grenades will jolt enemies. And this adds in AoE damage and extra damage on bosses, but is also really strong with our next fragment, Spark of Ions. Now defeating a jolted enemy or scoring a kill with bolt charge will create an ionic trace. Our barricades will help us send off a ton of bolt charge, and our grenades will now jolt enemies, so we can consistently create these ionic traces, though there is a 10-second cooldown. And finally, I bring Spark of Resistance, and this makes it so that while surrounded by enemies, we take 25% less damage, which will stack with the 15% damage resistance from being amplified, letting you stay in the action and heal with your thunderclaps. And if you're enjoying the video or just excited to get into some new content, leaving a like and subscribing would be much appreciated. Alright, let's get right back to it. So what does this look like in action? Well, the important thing to note is that you can easily hot swap from this build to an ad clearing build. I like to save these builds next to each other in my loadouts menu. That way I can quickly hit one button to swap back and forth between them. And with the ad clearing build, I love keeping everything the same for weapons in the subclass to not lose any of my abilities or my ammo. I like to swap to Insurmountable Skullfort as my exotic. That way, with every powered melee kill, we immediately gain back our powered melee. And this makes it super easy to keep spamming those thunderclaps, creating orbs, healing, and immediately getting back your thunderclap once more. I also love to make sure I have the mod Special Finisher. That way, in those ad clearing phases, I can help create a ton of special ammo for both me and my team. Then, going into DPS phases, I click that one button to swap to my Cuirass build. I start by placing down a barricade and throwing my grenade. By this time, your teammate should have already tractored the boss, meaning that you can Tcrash for that extra damage from weaken. Then just keep hip firing that bow, and every time you get your super back, pop it again for another burst of damage. And I also like to bring Powerful Attraction. That way, if you have another teammate that's also spamming a super, you can easily pick up their orbs by popping another barricade, and extending the window that you can also send off that bolt charge. So let's talk about ways to improve the build. First up, the stats. As we mentioned before, since we're planning on doing most of our damage with our super, it's critical to make sure you're at 200 super. Now ideally you'd aim for 160, and that's because of our helmet mods, which will be mentioned in a second. Then you'd ideally want your weapon stat over 100. However, it doesn't seem realistically possible with the current armor archetypes. So I'm aiming for as much grenade stat as possible to gain that bonus damage with our grenade. So when it comes to those armor mods, for the helmet mods, first I like to take 2 super font mods. That way, while we have armor charge, we gain that plus 40 to our super stat, which is why we aim for 160 in the first place. Now you could opt for 3, but since they cost 3 each, the third only gives another plus 10, meaning that you'll miss out on plus 5 from your stat slot. So I don't really think it's worth it just having another one for an additional plus 5 to your super. That's why I like to opt for either Powerful Friends or Radiant Light. Both will help keep your team at full stacks of armor charge for that DPS phase, by either picking up orbs or popping your super. And when it comes to gauntlet mods, I like to bring 2 copies of our grenade font. That way we gain that plus 40 to our grenade stat, making it easier to get over that 100 mark and gain more damage from it in those DPS phases. Any other of the useful mods would make it so that we can't bring a plus 10 in our stat slot, so I'm just sticking to these 2 for our gauntlets. And for the chest mods, I'm opting for 3 resistance mods that match the main damage type in the DPS phases. For example, the final boss in the new Desert Perpetual raid, Korigos, will fire arc beams that leave behind AoE damage. So I like to bring 2 arc resistance and 1 concussive dampener to help mitigate it as much as I can. And for the leg mods, I like to bring 3 weapon surges to match our DPS weapon. For Outbreak, that would be 3 kinetic weapon surges for the added 22% damage. Though with Hierarchy of Needs, that would be 3 solar surges, which can pair nicely with a solar heavy weapon. And when it comes to the class mods, I first like to bring Bomber. That way we can gain a bump of grenade energy when we place down another barricade. Then I bring a copy of Powerful Attraction. That way we also pick up any nearby orbs by using our barricade, making it a bit easier to gain back that super even quicker. Then I bring Time Dilation. That way we can have 15 seconds per armor charge to ensure we have it consistently active for all of our stats and weapon damage. And when it comes to the artifact, there are a few perks that help boost this build a bit more. First up, we have Elemental Benevolence. This makes it so that giving an elemental buff to allies gives back 15% class ability energy, and in DPS phases, this means that placing down a barricade, we can gain back a large chunk of energy since our barricade gives all of our allies bolt charge. I also really like Shoulder to Shoulder, since we can deal precision damage near allies to gain ×2 resist for another 25% damage resistance, which is really strong for those DPS phases and harder activities. And we also really want to take Shield Crush. Now, while amplified or radiant, we gain 25% more damage for our pulse grenades, and they'll have a quicker recharge rate. And this helps to throw more grenades that deal more damage in those DPS phases. And we should be gaining Radiant from an ally as well, which will proc this and also Radiant Shrapnel. That way, dealing weapon damage while Radiant will create Solar Shrapnel that will damage enemies and scorch them, adding in more passive damage to your DPS phases. And when it comes to weapons, the most important thing is to bring either Outbreak or Hierarchy, since they're key to quickly gaining back super energy on bosses. After that, I love bringing ad clearing weapons or burst damage weapons like the new rocket assisted pulse rifle. Though if you are rocking Outbreak, then I also really love a weapon like Lotus Eater, which can roll with repulsor brace and destabilizing rounds, making it deal a ton of AoE damage and consistently giving you overshields for more survivability. And since our primary weapon will be the main source of damage in DPS phases, this opens up your heavy slot to bring whatever you want. Typically, I like to bring a sword with Eager Edge for movement. However, you could opt for a machine gun to quickly wipe out enemies, or a rocket if you want to burst down mini bosses. This build has made it so that I consistently stay on top of the leaderboards for damage in the new Desert Perpetual raid. Huge shout out to Apex Gaming PCs for sponsoring this video, and don't forget to sign up for a chance to win a $5,000 PC. But if you want to see a Warlock build that also deals a ton of boss damage, then go check out this video here. But remember, mastering this build is only the beginning. Experiment with different combinations and tweak your loadout to suit your playstyle. If you found this video helpful or just enjoyed seeing a new perspective, feel free to like the video and comment down below on what you might change or how you'd improve the optimized DPS Titan build. Keep an eye out for future videos as we continue to explore the ever-evolving world of Destiny 2. Until then, may the threads of fate be ever in your favor. This is Lucky Mech signing off. See you on the next adventure, Guardians.